The Violari cruiser Yarvath Dawn floated like a silver blade in the cold black sky. Inside, lights hummed and engines pulsed with quiet power. The ship was large, proud, and feared across many systems. It belonged to the Dominion, a great empire that had taken control of hundreds of worlds. Captain Salira stood at the edge of the viewing platform, her arms behind her back. Her violet eyes watched the stars, but her thoughts were elsewhere. On the prisoner. He was unlike any they had captured before. Human, she said quietly, almost like the word was foreign on her tongue. She had read the reports. His ship, a small Earth exploration vessel, had been found drifting in a quiet sector near the edge of Dominion space. No weapons, no crew, just him, alive, calm, not afraid. She walked down the long corridor to the holding chamber. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, he sat on the metal bench, hands resting on his knees. No chains, no guards, just the blue light of the cell surrounding him. He looked up. Salira paused for a moment. She had seen many prisoners before. They cried, shouted, begged. Some went silent with fear. But not this one. His eyes were clear, blue, like a calm sea. His expression steady, no hate, no fear, just interest. You know who I am? Salira asked, stepping inside. You're the one in charge, he replied. His voice was relaxed, almost friendly. She tilted her head. Do you not know what we do to our enemies? I have an idea, he said, and yet you do not fear. He smiled. A quiet, warm smile that surprised her. No, I don't. Salira crossed her arms. Explain. He looked at her with something strange in his eyes. Not arrogance, not madness. Something deeper. I come from a planet where children learn to survive before they learn to speak, he began. Where fire, ice, and war have tried to destroy us again and again. We've been hunted, burned, broken, but we always come back. Stronger, she blinked. You are not stronger. You are a fragile species. Maybe, he agreed. But we keep standing. That's what matters. There was silence between them. Salira studied him closely. His body showed signs of wear. Old scars, healed wounds. But his mind, it was sharp. Clear. You are alone here, she said. No fleet, no allies. No help. Why are you so calm? He leaned forward slightly. Because I'm not afraid. Have you? That made her laugh. Not cruelly, but softly. You are strange for a human. I've been called worse, he replied with a grin. She walked closer, her boots quiet on the floor. What is your name? Lieutenant Caleb Reese, Earth Exploration Corps. And you crashed here by mistake? No. We were mapping systems. Didn't know this was Dominion space. A mistake that cost your crew their lives. His jaw tightened. There was pain in his eyes now, but he did not let it break him. Yes, he said, and I will remember them. Salira nodded slowly. Then I will ask one last time. Why do you not fear? Caleb looked up at her, and this time, there was fire behind his calm voice. Because you don't know what we're really like, he said. Salira felt a chill. His words were quiet, but they carried weight. What do you mean? He leaned back again. You see a single human and think you've won. But humans, we never send one alone without a backup plan. And we never forget. She stared at him. Something's coming, Captain. Not to destroy you, but to take me back. Her hand went to her comm, but she paused. Is that a threat? No, he said softly. It's a promise. Salira turned and walked away, the cell door hissing shut behind her. As she walked back down the corridor, her thoughts were no longer calm. There was something different about this human. Not just in his words, but in his eyes. He was not afraid. And somehow that scared her more than any weapon. Captain Salira stood in her private quarters aboard the Yarvath Dawn, staring at the small holographic globe spinning slowly before her. The blue and green sphere was Earth, the home world of her prisoner. She studied the image, trying to understand the place that had shaped Lieutenant Caleb Reese. She had seen many prisoners from many species, but none like this human. He was calm in captivity. He spoke of strength in ways that felt unfamiliar. Most aliens feared the Dominion, feared death, feared pain. But Caleb spoke of something different, a kind of quiet power. A knock at the door pulled Salira from her thoughts. "Enter," she called. The technician, Maris, stepped inside carrying a data pad. "Captain, I have the results from the psychological probe on the human." Salira motioned for her to continue. Maris set the pad down and activated the hologram. Images and sounds flickered in the air, memories from Caleb's mind. Salira watched. Scenes of a world covered in blue oceans and green forests, but also broken cities and smoky skies. She saw humans in battle, not just fighting enemies, but sometimes fighting each other. She saw people helping strangers, holding hands in times of grief, standing strong even when hope seemed lost. "These are memories of war and peace," Maris said. "His mind is filled with history, pain, loss, but also hope and courage." Salira frowned. "Why would a species with so much suffering be so confident?" Maris shrugged. "Humans survive because they keep going. They do not give up." Salira considered this. It was true that many species crumbled under pressure, but humans seemed to rise. They were fragile in body, but strong in spirit. "Is there more?" she asked. Maris nodded and activated another set of images. This time the hologram showed a vast fleet of ships, thousands of them, gliding through space. Sleek, powerful, and coordinated. The Dominion did not have this. Many ships in the sector. Where did they come from? Salira's eyes narrowed. "This fleet, it's real?" Maris checked the data again. "Yes, Captain. The human fleet is active and moving toward this system. They are not hiding." Salira's heart raced. If a human fleet was coming, it meant they wanted something. Or someone. "Caleb," she whispered. The door to her quarters slid open. Caleb stood there calm as ever. "You asked why I don't fear," he said, stepping inside without waiting. Salira did not reply. Instead, she watched him carefully. "We have survived not because we are stronger than others," Caleb said quietly, "but because we learn. We adapt, we protect each other even when it costs us." He looked at the holograms. "That fleet you see, it's not just ships. It's hope. It's a promise to every human out there. No one gets left behind." Salira felt a strange stirring inside her. She had been raised to see humans as weak and disorganized, but Caleb's words carried truth. "What will happen when they arrive?" she asked. "They will come for me," Caleb said, "because I know things your leaders want, secrets they think I have forgotten. And if you refuse to talk," Caleb smiled faintly, "then they will fight, but I don't think it will come to that." Salira crossed her arms. "Why not?" "Because even enemies can find peace if they understand each other." She studied him, searching for signs of trickery or lies, but all she saw was honesty. "Your people sound complicated," she said. "We are," Caleb agreed. "We are not perfect, but we are real." Salira felt the weight of his words settle in her mind. For the first time, she wondered if the Dominion had underestimated humans. "Tell me more about your world," she said softly. Caleb nodded and began to speak of Earth, a planet of contrasts, of storms and calm seas, deserts and jungles, cities that never slept and quiet villages where time seemed to stand still. He spoke of people who fought not for conquest, but for survival and freedom. Of families who lost everything but still loved. Of leaders who made mistakes but tried to do better. Salira listened, captivated. The human stories were different from the cold, calculated tales of Dominion victories and losses she knew. They fight wars, she said, but also build peace. Yes, Caleb said, because we know the cost of war. As the hours passed, Salira realized something important. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something else. Strange, fierce, and unyielding. And somehow that made her respect them. But it also made her uneasy. The coming days would change everything, and the Dominion was not ready. The corridors of the Yarvath Dawn were quiet, but the tension inside was growing like a slow-burning fire. Captain Salira could feel it deep in her bones. Something was changing, not just in the ship, but in the way her crew looked at the prisoner. Lieutenant Caleb Reese remained calm, as always. He had been held in the same cell for days, yet there was no sign of fear or weakness. Instead, he spoke, quietly, with a young technician named Maris, who often brought him food and data. Maris had been hesitant at first. She was loyal to the Violari Dominion, trained to distrust humans. But Caleb's calm words and steady presence began to change her thoughts. One day she stopped at his cell longer than usual. "Why do you talk to me like I'm not your enemy?" she asked softly. Caleb smiled. "Because you're not. Not really." Maris frowned. "You're my prisoner, and I'm your guest," Caleb replied lightly, "at least until my friends arrive." Maris's eyes widened. "You're waiting for help?" "Yes, but not just for me." He looked thoughtful. "For anyone who has been forgotten or left behind." Maris stared at him. "You mean your fleet?" Caleb nodded. "They are closer than you think." Word of their conversations began to spread quietly among the crew. Whispers filled the halls. "The human does not fear. He talks like he belongs here. Maybe humans are different." Salira noticed the change too. Some soldiers seemed less sure of their orders. Some guards watched Caleb with curiosity, not hate. During a routine inspection, Salira overheard two junior officers whispering near the engine room. "He says things that make me wonder," one said. "How can someone so calm be so dangerous?" The other shook his head. "Maybe humans are not the weak ones after all." Salira's lips pressed into a thin line. Doubt was a dangerous thing aboard a Dominion ship. Later, in the captain's quarters, Salira sat with Maris. "Tell me everything you've learned from him," Salira demanded. Maris nodded nervously. "He speaks of hope, Captain. Of standing up even when the odds are against you. He says humans fight for each other, not just for power." Salira frowned. "But your loyalty remains with the Dominion?" "Yes," Maris said quickly. "But I cannot ignore what I see." Salira's eyes narrowed. "And what do you see?" Maris hesitated. "I see a man who believes in something greater than himself, something our leaders do not." Before Salira could respond, an alert sounded through the ship. The communications console flashed red. Salira moved quickly to the bridge. "Report," she ordered. The communications officer tapped the screen. "Captain, we have detected a signal, an encrypted message from an unknown source. The origin matches the coordinates where the human ship was found." Salira's heart quickened. "Play it." The message was short and simple. "Reese is not alone. Rescue fleet en route." The bridge fell silent. Salira stared at the screen, then at her crew. "What do they want?" someone asked. "They want their lieutenant back," Salira said grimly. "And they're coming soon." Back in his cell, Caleb watched the ship's status on a small device hidden in his sleeve. His expression was calm but determined. "Maris," he said softly when she visited. "It's time to prepare." She looked at him confused. "Prepare? For what?" "For what comes next. The arrival of my fleet, and maybe a chance for peace." Salira was informed of the signal. She called Caleb to her quarters. He entered, calmly. "Why did you not warn us sooner?" she asked. "Because I wanted to see who would listen," Caleb said. "Who would understand." Salira shook her head. "You risked everything." "Sometimes risk is necessary," Caleb said. To show the truth. Salira looked into his eyes and saw the fire beneath his calm, an unshakable will. Why do you want peace? She asked quietly. Because war destroys everyone, Caleb said. But understanding builds futures. The conversation was interrupted by the ship's alarm. Red lights flashed. The sensors showed a fleet of ships approaching fast, sleek and bright, unlike anything the Dominion had seen. Salira's voice was steady but urgent. Prepare for possible battle, but hold fire unless fired upon. Caleb smiled faintly. That's how we fight, but only if we must. As the fleet drew closer, Salira wondered what kind of future awaited them. Could a lone human change the fate of an empire, or would fire beneath the calm become a storm that swallowed them all? Captain Salira sat alone in her quarters, the soft glow of the starlight spilling through the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, cold and distant, but inside, her mind a storm raged. She thought about Caleb Reese, the human prisoner who did not fear her, who spoke of hope and strength that came not from weapons or power, but from something deeper, something she did not fully understand. The orders from the High Command were clear: extract every secret from him. Use whatever means necessary. The Dominion could not afford to lose control or allow humans to grow stronger. Yet Salira hesitated. She replayed her conversations with Caleb in her mind. His stories of Earth were full of struggle, yes, but also of kindness, sacrifice, and determination. That was not the language of a weak species. It was the language of survivors. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she called. Maris stepped inside, looking nervous but determined. Captain, I've completed the analysis of the human's background. Salira gestured for her to continue. Maris activated a holographic display. Images appeared of human history, scenes of great battles, of entire cities destroyed and rebuilt, of people standing together in the face of disasters. Your prisoner, Maris said quietly, is part of a species that has faced extinction more times than we can count. Yet they always come back, not just to survive, but to rebuild stronger. Salira studied the images carefully. She could see now why Caleb spoke with such quiet confidence. They do not fight just to conquer, Maris added. They fight to protect, to defend their homes and those they love. Salira nodded slowly. And yet the Dominion believes they are weak, fragile. That is a mistake, Maris said. Salira sighed. It is not just about strength in battle. It is about control. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the vast darkness. If I release him, she whispered, I risk my rank, my honor. Maris hesitated. But if you do not? Salira turned sharply. If I do not, I risk much more. The weight of the choice pressed down on her. That night, Salira returned to Caleb's cell, not as a captor, but as someone searching for truth. He looked up when she entered. Why are you here? He asked calmly. Salira took a deep breath. I have orders to extract secrets from you, to use force if necessary. Caleb smiled gently. You do not have to do that. She looked away. But I will, because it is my duty. Sometimes, he said softly, the right choice is not the easy one. Salira met his eyes. What would you have me do? Look beyond fear, Caleb said. See what we truly are. She frowned. And what are you? He paused. Then, said quietly, we are what nightmares have nightmares about. Not because we seek war, but because we choose to be better, to keep fighting when others give up. Salira felt a chill. His words struck her deeper than any weapon could. What, if I refuse your offer? She asked. Then you remain a prisoner to fear, Caleb said. But you are not that. For the first time, Salira believed him. Later in her quarters, she made a decision. She would not hand Caleb over to the High Command. Instead, she began working secretly, disabling surveillance, loosening restraints, creating space for the truth to grow. She knew the risk, but sometimes, the hardest choices were the most necessary. As the human fleet drew nearer, the Yarvath Dawn changed, not outwardly, but inside its walls. A quiet rebellion began, and Captain Salira was at its heart. The corridors of the Yarvath Dawn hummed with quiet tension. Captain Salira moved swiftly, her mind sharp and determined. The decision she had made to protect Caleb Reese, the human prisoner, was dangerous. If the Dominion found out, her rank and her life would be at risk. But she could no longer ignore the truth. Caleb was not just a prisoner. He was a symbol of hope, of resilience, of a future that could be different. In a hidden corner of the ship, Salira met with Maris, the young Chinitian who had grown to trust the human. "The systems are vulnerable," Maris whispered, her eyes wide. "If we act now, we can disable the Dominion's control over this ship." Salira nodded. "It's time. We cannot wait." Meanwhile, Caleb sat quietly in his cell. He touched the small device hidden in his sleeve, the one that tracked the movements of the human fleet approaching their location. "They are closer than ever," he told Maris when she visited. "And when they arrive, we must be ready." Maris looked worried. "The Dominion will not let this happen easily." "No," Caleb agreed, "but they underestimate what we can do when we stand together." Salira made her way to the ship's control room. She was not alone. A small group of crew members who had begun to question the Dominion's rule were with her. "Disable the security feeds," Salira ordered quietly. One by one, cameras and sensors blinked off. "Good," she said. "Now, we open the cells and free the prisoners." The doors to several holding areas slid open, and the quiet rebellion began. Guards were confused, their orders unclear as the ship's systems flickered and failed. Salira stood tall in the chaos, her voice firm. "This ship belongs to its people, not to tyrants." In the central cell, Caleb's door slid open. He stepped out, calm and steady, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Salira approached him. "We must prepare for the fleet's arrival." Caleb nodded. "The Dominion will not surrender easily." "But neither will we." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. The Vailari High Admiral had boarded the Yarvath Dawn. His presence was like a shadow falling over the rebellion. "Captain Salira," the Admiral said coldly, "your actions are treason. You will be arrested, and the prisoner will be executed. Immediately." Salira met his gaze without fear. "I serve justice, not tyranny," the Admiral sneered. "You will regret this." Caleb stepped forward. "I do not fear death, but I will not die without a fight." The crew around them tensed, ready for conflict. Salira knew the coming hours would decide their fate. But she believed in something stronger than weapons or ranks. She believed in the fire beneath the calm, the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The red alarm lights flashed across the walls of the Yarvath Dawn. The Vailari cruiser, once calm and controlled, now felt like a battleground ready to ignite. Captain Salira stood firm on the bridge, her eyes scanning the readouts. Outside the ship, the human fleet had arrived. Dozens of sleek, powerful vessels moving with quiet precision. The Vailari soldiers were tense, gripping their weapons tightly. The High Admiral's voice echoed through the ship's loudspeakers, cold and commanding. "Fire upon the humans if they show aggression. We will not surrender this cruiser." Salira's gaze met Caleb's. He stood beside her, calm and steady. "We do not fight unless we must," Caleb said softly. "That is how we survive." Suddenly, the human fleet formed a protective circle around the Yarvath Dawn. Their weapons remained silent, but their presence was a clear message. "Do not attack." The Admiral growled in frustration. "Hold your fire!" Salira stepped forward. "Admiral, listen to me. We do not have to destroy each other." The Admiral turned sharply to her. "You are a traitor, Salira. You will pay for this." Caleb raised his hand. "I offer peace, but only if you choose it." The Admiral sneered. "Peace is for the weak." Salira shook her head. "Strength comes from choosing peace, not war." The tension was thick, but suddenly the Admiral's voice changed. A loud hum filled the ship. A superweapon was charging, an energy cannon capable of destroying entire fleets. Solera's heart raced. She knew what must be done. Without hesitation, she moved toward the weapons control panel. "Stop!" the Admiral shouted. "You will not betray the Dominion." Solera's fingers flew over the controls. She rerouted power and took control of the weapon. With a deep breath, she turned the weapon against the Admiral's own command center. The blast tore through the walls, disabling the control room and ending the threat. Chaos erupted among the loyalists. Caleb smiled faintly. Sometimes the hardest choice is to stand against your own. Solera looked at him with respect. "Thank you." Outside, the human fleet held position, ready but patient. The Admiral's officers surrendered and the ship slowly quieted. Solera stepped to the communication console and opened a channel to the human fleet commander. "We are ready to negotiate," she said. The fleet commander's voice was calm. "We come with open hands. Let us end the cycle of fear." Caleb placed a hand on Solera's shoulder. "This is the beginning." As the stars twinkled beyond the viewport, Solera realized the truth. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's quiet strength was lighting the way. The Yarvath dawn was quiet now. The tension had melted into a new kind of hope. Captain Solera stood beside Lieutenant Caleb Reese on the bridge, looking out at the calm stars beyond the glass. The human fleet still surrounded the cruiser, but their weapons were silent. The war was over, not with a blast of fire, but with the courage to choose peace. Solera turned to Caleb, her violet eyes filled with questions. "Why do you not fear?" she asked again softly. Caleb smiled, the same calm smile she had seen from the beginning. "Fear is for those who do not know what they stand for," he said. "We stand for each other, for hope, for a future worth fighting for." Solera nodded slowly. She felt something inside her shift, a new understanding of strength. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by a message from Earth Command, the human government. "Captain Solera, Lieutenant Reese," the voice came through the speakers. "We have received your report. We are prepared to establish a new agreement between the Dominion and Earth, a treaty of peace and cooperation." Solera felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The galaxy was changing, and she was part of that change. Caleb stepped forward. "This is just the beginning. We have much to rebuild." Together, the other Valari officers gathered in the bridge, some still uncertain but most hopeful. Solera addressed them with quiet strength. "The Dominion will no longer rule through fear. We will listen. We will learn." One young officer raised her hand. "Captain, what if others refuse peace?" Solera looked at Caleb. He nodded. "We will be ready," Caleb said. "Not with weapons alone, but with truth and courage." Days later, the Yarvath Dawn docked at a neutral space station. Representatives from many worlds gathered to witness the signing of the new treaty. Solera stood beside Caleb as they signed the documents. The crowd cheered, not just for peace, but for the promise of a better future. Later, Solera walked through the ship's corridors, thinking about everything that had happened. She found Maris, the young technician who had helped start the rebellion. "You did well," Solera said warmly. Maris smiled. "I learned that strength is more than power. It is belief." Solera nodded. "And humanity taught us that." As the stars shone brightly outside, Solera felt hope bloom inside her. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and wonder. But now, with humans and Vailari standing together, it was also full of promise. She returned to the bridge and looked once more at Caleb. "Thank you for showing me another way," she said. Caleb smiled. "Thank you for choosing it." Together, they watched the stars, ready to face whatever came next. Because when fear is replaced by hope, even the darkest night can become a new dawn.